Welcome. I imagine if you're here and watching this, then you are very frustrated with being tired, feeling stuck, overwhelmed, and just not able to get out of this rut you're in, or not able to fill this potential that you feel you have within. I imagine you may even feel very lost and just not know where to start. Or perhaps you have already taken many medications, supplements, or tried various things, but they just don't seem to be helping. I am a holistic psychologist. I work with body, mind, and spirit, and I support heart-led women to make a difference in the world and to show up in their fullest potential without burning out, but instead experiencing ease, flow, vitality, and joy. 9 years ago, I didn't have the capacity for anything besides the bare basics of life. I was exhausted. I had just been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue syndrome. I felt guilty and ashamed as a wife, as a mother, a partner, and a friend, a daughter. I just couldn't be who I felt I wanted to be and felt I could be. However, fortunately for me, my adrenal fatigue syndrome and my whole health experience actually ended up being a gift that was wrapped in barbed wire. What I mean by this is that it helped me to get a much deeper and fuller understanding of the root causes of chronic exhaustion and all the experiences that go with that. Furthermore, my experience helped me to really step into my truth and the fullness of who I am. And as a result, it has become my passion and my purpose to share what I know with others who are struggling in the same way. So let's get started. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Okay. So we are so much more than our bodies. What I mean by that is that we are not just a physiological body. We are impacted by our emotions, the energy within and outside of us, our environments, and even our spiritual experience. All of these things come together to form a holistic system. And if one of them is out of balance, it impacts all the rest of them. But we are so used to being taught that if something is wrong with the body, then we must go to someone who deals with the body on a physical level, which usually, unfortunately, means taking some form of supplement or medication to fix the symptom. However, our bodies are constantly reacting to how we experience life. So what I mean by that is that the meaning we give life, the way we perceive it, results in us having various thoughts and emotions. And our bodies then react physiologically and actually undergo physiological changes to that experience because of our body-mind connection. How we experience life now, which impacts our physiological changes, is heavily shaped by our past experiences. So when we're trying to treat our body in the present moment, and we're only treating what we're seeing in the present moment, what happens is we negate and forget to consider a whole lot of what has happened in the past that has contributed to how we are now experiencing life and having physical symptoms in our life. So our early experiences shape our personalities. Our personalities are the belief systems and the behaviors that we adopt that inform how we show up in life and respond to life. These are shaped by our temperament, but to a very large degree, they are shaped by a need to survive. At a very primal level, we need to belong to a tribe. We need to be good enough so that we're accepted, so that we're not rejected. And we need to know that we are safe and wanted. Unfortunately, what this means is that we may not show up in a truest form of who we are, if that could possibly lead to us no longer belonging in the tribe or being rejected or criticized, or punished even. Unfortunately, as children, we cannot manage our emotions. We don't know how to. We also can't problem solve. We need someone more resourceful and hopefully emotionally stable or emotionally healthy to be able to help us do these things. This is called co-regulation. We need someone to regulate with us so that we then learn to self-regulate, which helps us to trust our own capacity to manage difficulties and to manage our emotions. Most of our caregivers were very good at managing things practically, but unfortunately, many of our caregivers did not know how to manage us emotionally. It was too triggering for them to be faced with our own emotions. This is usually because their parents or caregivers were not able to manage their emotions. And so they were never co-regulated and then learned to self-regulate. And so they become dysregulated by our emotions. So it's unfortunately a lineage pattern that's passed down. So what this means is fundamentally, at a very deep level, when there's an emotional experience resulting in an expression of that emotion, which then causes people to either become anxious or to withdraw or to punish, at a deep level, it makes us feel unsafe about having those emotions. So not just we're feeling them feels uncomfortable, but expressing them doesn't feel safe. So that expression is our authenticity. It's our authentic self. So if we're unhappy, if we've had a bad day and we act out at home and it comes out as anger, and that results in punishment, we are taught that our authentic expression is dangerous or not good, that we're not good enough. Instead of being taught how to regulate what is going on inside. So what we do, because it's too uncomfortable to feel those emotions that are not regulated, and because we don't want to risk rejection or punishment, or we don't want to burden or upset other people, we learn to adapt ourselves. So we shape our personalities in a way that we will show up in a particular way that is going to ensure that we feel good enough about ourselves, we feel in control, and we feel safe. Okay. Trauma these are just lovely quotations that really exemplify or show what I'm trying to say about how the people we think we are now or the person we think we are is often deeply impacted by an unconscious need as a child to feel good enough and safe and to not upset other people. All right. So these personalities that we create, I call them the holding personality, because if we are not co-regulated and we don't then learn how to self-regulate, instead we hold it all together. We become self-reliant and we put behaviors into place or coping mechanisms into place that will help us to feel good enough and to feel in control. So these are many of the behaviors that were in the quiz, if you've taken that. For instance, needing to be perfect in what we do, needing to always plan, needing to always know what's happening, to be in the know, rescuing and protecting other people. These are all behaviors that will have come about unconsciously as a child to feel safe when dysregulated and to feel like we will still be accepted and belong. I'm not saying that these things are bad on their own, but when they are coming from an unconscious need to feel safe and in control and loved, usually it's very hard to let them go. And it causes us a great deal of anxiety if we're not doing these things. And that then is not healthy. So this holding personality informs how we responded to life back then and continues to inform how we respond to life now. So anything in the present moment that in any way causes us to feel dysregulated, in other words, like that child, so when our emotions are too big, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel unsupported, when we feel alone, we will put this adapted self and this holding personality is really going to step up in full force to help us to manage and to not feel these emotions, which just are a little bit too big. So what does this have to do with your body and your health? This adapted self, because it was born out of a fear state that never learned to self-regulate, comes with a default stress response. So what I mean by that is many of us live in a low-grade state of stress because we never learned to self-regulate, because we were not co-regulated. And so instead, we put our coping mechanisms in place when we are dysregulated. And underneath that is this chronic sort of low-grade stress response. And most of us don't even recognize it. We think that it's normal. The behaviors of the holding self or the adapted self are very depleting. So if you think about things like needing to be perfect, always needing to be on top of everything, needing to always be in the know, always trying to hold for everyone else, always trying to hold it together, it's exhausting. It's exhausting if it always has to be like that, if you can't let yourself off the hook. Furthermore, the stress state that this comes with, this low-grade stress state, means that the body is either always wired and activated, which is busy and doing and wired, or it goes into the shutdown state, which is exhaustion, lack of motivation, and disconnection, dissociation even. So we can spend a lot of time in those two states. And when we're there, our bodies are not healing, they're not replenishing, and they're certainly not able to create energy. So for instance, the little mitochondria in the DNA of your cells, they can only be, they create the energy, they're the powerhouses of the body. They can only be in two states. They can either be creating energy or they go into cell danger response. So as soon as your brain perceives that something is threatening, the body physiologically adapts and responds, and the mitochondria go into cell danger response. And what then happens is they cannot be producing energy. And if you spend a lot of your time feeling dysregulated in this low-grade stress response, your body cannot be creating energy. So the problem is that this default way of being just seems so normal. And I'm not judging anyone here. I'm a psychologist, and it took me 8 years after studying psychology to start to realize how much stress I was holding that I was not aware of. It took me a long time to even begin to actually understand how dysregulated I was. And yet I thought that I was functioning okay. So what happens is that your body begins to show us symptoms. Because of this constant chronic imbalance where you cannot be producing energy and you're in this low-grade stress response because you easily go into dysregulation. The body then starts to feel tired, it starts to feel wired, it starts to have chronic illness, chronic infections that go with that, etc., etc. And these symptoms are your body's message to tell you that the way you are living life and doing life is not normal and not healthy. This is a good thing because then you can do something about it. And the answer is connection. This is connection to self, connection to others, and connection to something greater. Because a large part of this is learning to feel safe in life, and then consequently safe in the body. If the body can feel safe and regulated, if the nervous system can be regulated, the body can heal. And that is when we feel a lot more vitality in the body. So connection helps us to recognize when we are dysregulated, when there is imbalance. It then helps us to tune in and listen to exactly what it is that this unique body needs. Instead of taking everything that someone says is good for us and giving our power away to others to fix us, it's about starting to actually tune in and give yourself exactly what you need. And thirdly, we are able to then use our bodies to calm ourselves and to calm the nervous system, which is where the healing really begins. Connection back to the self not only improves health, but it is an amazing awakening experience. I cannot tell you how many of my clients have discovered that the person that they thought they were is really not who they want to be anymore, where they discover that they've always allowed people to take advantage of them, or that they've only actually been doing this job because they were scared to do anything else. So massive big changes start to happen. And this can be scary too. But for those who've been brave enough to take these steps, it's incredible what can happen and how you can start showing up in a way that is just so much more in alignment with your truth, instead of being who you think you need to be good enough and to feel safe, which of course has until this point been unconscious. So let me just stop that. When I work with clients, a big part of what I do is to help them to feel safe in their bodies again, and safe enough to let go of those coping mechanisms and to be more regulated in their nervous systems. I work through 5 steps of transformation, which I call fatigue to flow. The first one is awareness. This is awareness of how your particular unique background is impacting the way you're showing up in life now and your nervous system dysregulation. The second step is connection. And there's different aspects to this. Like I said, connection to self, connection to inner child, and connection to the spiritual or something greater, in order to have a sense of being held and feeling like if you had to let go, the world's not going to fall apart. This involves really coming home to the self and being deeply connected with the body. I use a lot of embodiment practices and help people to become way more aware of what is actually going on in their bodies. This starts to form the basis for intuition, which comes later. After connection, we feel safe enough to start releasing. This looks at trauma and how trauma shows up in our lives. And I also look at the buildup of cumulative stress and how to pace ourselves in various measures to stop that cumulative stress that impacts our energy so much. I then take them through the release phase. After release comes receive. We've created space to then receive something new. This is when we can tune into, so with our intuition, tune into what is it that this body needs. It's also about allowing ourselves to receive that. And when we meet our own needs and receive them, we open ourselves up to receiving from others around us. Finally, what that tends to bring is more ease and flow. It's amazing how synchronicities just start to show up. We all have within us a self-actualizing drive. This drive, if we got out of our own ways, this drive would help us to always step into our greatest and highest good. But when we have fears and beliefs and unconscious blocks that prevent us from doing that, it's often hard. When we feel safe and we allow that unfolding and flowing, it gets so much more easier. And part of this is looking also at being in tune with natural cycles and rhythms. So the menstrual cycle, the lunar cycle, seasons, even the circadian rhythms, and how these impact us on a daily basis, where we actually at times are needing to rest, and resting will pay off such huge dividends to enable us to have more energy further down the line. If any of what I've shared with you resonates on any level, if there's a big yes or a small yes and a lot of fear as well, take a look in the comments below and see the various ways in which you can find out more, or even work with me, set up a discovery call to explore this further, or send me an email to ask a question. I truly, truly believe that there is a gift in every struggle. I have seen it countless times with my clients, and it's just about receiving the right support and being conscious of the process to enable yourself to make use of that gift. I really do wish you all the best on this journey. Take care.